Over the years, I've never really been one for meditation. I've always done dreams. That's been my thing. I felt like meditation was boring, and the way my life was set up, I didn't feel like thinking more about it was going to be a solution for how to change it. So I kind of just took the route where I would have dreams and my dreams would feel real, and I would go places and I would get the information I need for my life. I didn't really think much more of it. Whenever I would speak to people about it, it would be like, oh, that's good for you, because I don't have that. And I'd be like, oh, okay, it's not normal. All right. But over the years, I've learned meditation for me is just the ability to focus in on something without outside noise. And being able to draw, being able to do art has done that for me. That's my place. Sometimes I do it when I'm cooking. It's just that place where you're just so locked in. You're just immersed in the creation of what it is you're doing. And that for me is my meditation. You know, I'm in neutral mode. I'm just in flow state. And that is where I love to be. So much of my art is closely linked to my travels on the other side of the veil, and it has inspired me over the years, not from a place of imagination and wonder, but a place of like realness. You know, I used to be able to say to people when I was younger, oh yeah, mermaids are real, and they would just look at me like, oh gosh, you're one of those kids. And I guess I was. I guess I still am, and that's fine by me. And I'm sure there's many of us out there who've been like, saw Splash and was like, finally, some truth to this. So yeah, my first encounter with the Mer Kingdom, I was 5. I was in what was then called Yugoslavia. I don't know if it's still Yugoslavia now or part of Croatia, I'm not too sure, but I was by the coast there, went on holiday. And believe it or not, it was when the war was happening, and we went. That part was not affected, so we went. Which is wild, because I asked my mum about it. I said, aren't they fighting? We would hear like, you know, fighting and that going on in the distance. And I would say, is that going to come over here? No, don't worry about it. It's not going to come over here. And I was like, okay. And I just accepted it and moved on. But it was so beautiful, and the people were so beautiful and loving, and it was just a wonderful place to be, especially as a 5-year-old who was from London. It was just wonderful. The sea was gorgeous, the people were lovely and warm, the weather was lovely and warm. And one evening we were going for a walk, and we were going past the coast, and we were just walking along. You know, they have these places where you can kind of like walk up the side of the cliff, and we were walking along, and they had little pavings there where they said, oh, okay, every mermaid sighting was like documented in the pavings. And I was like, wow, great, they have mermaids here, maybe we'll see one. I was just so open to it. The adults weren't paying any mind at the time. And then there came a place where it was like got really, really steep steps with no kind of handrails. Listen, it was late 80s. It's like no handrails, you know. So I was like, to my friend, she was like 16 at the time or something, but our families were together, and we were like, I said, you know what, be careful here, someone really shouldn't come here at night, like they won't be able to see, this would be really dangerous. And she was like, yeah, we better be careful. And just as we said that, we looked out, and the parents had kind of like gone off a little bit more up the steps, and I said, look, there's a lady there. And she's like, yeah. And she waved at us. And we waved back. We were like, hi. We're like, wow, these people are so nice. Next thing I know, she swims back in, like she goes underwater, and then a tail flashes up behind her. And I gasped. And we looked at each other and we were like, oh, a mermaid. And we were like trying to tell everyone, oh my God, we just saw a mermaid. They were like, girls, yeah, okay, girls. And we were like, oh my God. I was like, at least I had a witness. And that was my first mermaid sighting. And I know people go on holidays and they want to see killer whales and they want to see, dolphins and stuff like that, but seeing a mermaid is magical. Okay, it just was. So ever since then, it was just like, yeah, I saw a mermaid. I genuinely thought it was a woman, and I thought to myself, wow, she's brave, she'd be swimming quite far out. But she was smiling and she waved, we waved back, and then she just dove back in, and then a tail flashed up right behind her, and I was like, it was just wonderful, and it's always stuck with me. So I was like, okay, so locked in, mermaids are real. So then fast forward a couple of years, and dream state, which now I know was out of body state, but that accounts for how real everything felt. Yeah, I visited the marine kingdom, a lot of the times I will just appear where I need to, or I'll command to go where I need to, and I go. And this time I didn't have a command in mind, but I just knew that I wanted to learn more about the ocean, or the waters of the world. And there I was taken. Once we passed the waters, you can just walk around there. It's not like you're there and you're swimming around, and you walk around, going from having legs to having being able to swim, having fins, it's like more of an amphibian feel. Like you can be there and you can be in water. I think it's more for the transitioning of it all. But once I was there, I was walking around. I was in a beautiful square with cobbled roads that were a very light grey stone. It was very sunny, warmth against my skin. There was 2 very old olive trees, and when I mean old, I'm saying into the thousands of years old. A couple of people were in the square and they were talking about it. Oh my God, that's da-da-da-da. And the trees have names when they get that old. I can't recall the name right now. But yeah, once the trees get that old, the people in the business are naming them. And those trees in particular were named, and they stood right at the gates of the Marine Kingdom. It was very welcoming. It was very much a feel of a beautiful, I would say, picturesque Tuscan village, but with the grandiose of the Arc de Triomphe, with golden gates, and a huge, and when I mean huge, I'm talking maybe a 10 meter high, 15 meter high statue of what I was told was one of the kings of the mer people, of the marine people, of the marine kingdom. And he stood there with tail form and a trident in another hand and a crown on his head. 6-pack. I was like, you do that, 6-pack. And I was like, oh, that's swimming, come on. Shoulders chiseled. And he was copper, but the copper had turned oxidized over time, so it was this beautiful blue with sepia veins running through it. It was so welcoming and beautiful. It was as if he was frozen in time. And then beyond the gates was a beautiful cobbled bridge, and we were just not lining up, but we were just gathered at the square and being ushered through and guided through, very welcomed and gently to the entrance of a part of the Marine Kingdom. And it was a lovely time. Everyone was friendly. The smell in the air of salt, but as if you were like by the perfect coastal city. And I could smell the olives on the trees. I could smell the salt in the air. I could feel the warmth against my skin. And everyone was just in such high spirits, you know. It was one of those places where strangers would talk to one another happily. And it was, you know, no one was bothered by small talk. It was one of those places. And it was wonderful, you know. Sunflowers, sand castles, all of those things came rushing back as I woke up. And I remembered how much I loved building sandcastles when I was younger. And I would do it in the hopes that I would see another mermaid, but it was always too busy at the beach, and I knew that it had to happen at like a private beach or a beach where it was way more quiet. So I'm very much a person who prefers to go to quieter beaches, because I know that that's how it rolls. Like, you know, that's where you'll find them. In the quiet places. It's such a magical place to come from. When I left with a deeper understanding of the waters, the sands, the seas, the people, and a big understanding as to why I had personally been able to go there and enter there. I'd lived instance or experienced one of my timelines as a mer person, or a person from the marine kingdom, and it always translated as me, because I'd always wondered, why do I'm not a strong swimmer for the top of the water, but I can swim underwater like no other. It's literally how I get about. You need me to do 100 meters, 200 meters, I'll do it underwater, no problem. If you ask me to float, I'm sinking. you would think, lead out here. So I've always wondered why, and I think as I was asking like for that to be answered, it was all answered as I got back, and I was like, oh, that makes sense now. I was like, okay, so I am gonna still train how to swim. Everyone else in my family knows how to swim. One of my kids or my husband's gonna teach me, and they're all really strong swimmers. And I think that it's a lot of fear tied up to things you watch and Jesus, Jaws and whatever else you got going on, but it's nothing like the truth of what is. And what is safety and beauty and love. Literally welcoming love, and it was a wonderful experience. And as I go there and come back and do what I need to do and experience them on different levels, it's always been a good time, It's always been a good time. Share with me if any of you guys out there have had your encounters with mermaids, had your encounters with the marine kingdom, how that's been for you. Has it been through dream state? Has it been through out of body state? Have you just seen it live as well? Like, what's it for you? I'm so interested in this, and it's something that, because I know it to be true for myself, I'm not here to ask whether or not it's true. I know it is. Just seeing what everyone else's experiences has been as well. But I haven't even begun to touch on how beautiful the place is. I just only hope that between my art and my words, you can feel into the magic and the wonder of that whole entire kingdom and the people and the creatures that inhabit there. So yeah, it's it's ineffable. It truly is. And it's peaceful, and it's loving, and it's wonderful.